Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, want to jump in today to just talk very briefly on the notion of a value stream. A lot of organizations, whether they be business oriented in the sense of producing a product or a service, or whether they be service oriented from, say, a governmental side of the house, that sort of thing, where you're providing a service of sorts. And sometimes, you're getting, I won't say a product necessarily, but sometimes you might be, right? So, in some instances. But what I want to talk about as it relates to the value stream is that many organizations, and don't take this wrong, think that they're special. And they are. They provide very unique services, sometimes similar services of some other or products as others, say, across the country, and there's some competition. And they're not always exactly mirroring each other, right? There's some product or service variation there, right? Naturally. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. But but what you need to keep in mind, and I often see this when I come across different organizations, is the uniqueness for which they think that their organization operates. And it's fantastic to be unique and to have the uniqueness of what you do. But really, honestly, a value stream is a value stream. You require resources, you have people and equipment, sometimes machines, sometimes computers, that handle, process, produce, create, et cetera, et cetera. And then it goes through its pipeline where things get changed and developed and so on and so forth. And then it ships to a customer, or it's sent to a customer in a myriad of different forms. Essentially, a value stream is a value stream. But let me ask you, do you know what your value stream looks like? Do you know, and have you updated your value stream? If you're sitting there waiting for a service and you're a customer, and your customers, it's taking some customers 15 to 20 minutes to be served, others 10, others 5, right? Sure, there may be some nuance to service and the request and requirements. Yes, there's some nuance. But by and large, not really. And most of that can be analyzed and you can figure out. And then once you do that, then you can find ways to improve upon it. You can find ways to become more efficient rather than having, and who hasn't seen this, where people get backed up, say at the grocery store. They get backed up. And this is partly why the whole, check yourself out thing came about. Not only is it probably a little more efficient for small, hauls of groceries, but although I guess we're finding out that it isn't so efficient cost-wise. But it is probably a little more effective for the customer to get through the system a little quicker, especially if you have small batches of groceries. But all of that being said, is that you can't improve upon something that you don't know how you operate. If you don't know, if you have product A through J, different product lines, you should know how quickly that product can be made through your value stream. And not conversely, but in parallel to that, you may have machines that build the same or work on or produce some of the products that are faster moving through your value stream and some that are longer, that take longer to get through your value stream. So you really have to sit down and figure out, what does your value stream truly look like? Because if you are lengthening the amount of time when you're doing orders, or you're doing costing for orders, if you're basing it on erroneous data, this is getting passed along to customers. And quite honestly, it's laziness, okay? It is lazy not to figure out what your value stream is and not to improve upon it. and to make sure it's well known and that it's followed. Because if you don't, then again, you're inflating costs into the general public. Now, look at all the inflationary costs that we have. Do you think that that cost just happened miraculously out of nowhere? No, it didn't. It's basically cost being passed along, because the converse of improving upon something is inflating the cost to overcome, so that you make your profit margin so you can pay for your operation and so forth and so on. But that's not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to be innovative. You're supposed to be creative. You're supposed to be diligent. You're supposed to have an exuberance to serve your customers and to do that in a fair way. And if you're not doing that, if you don't even have a value stream mapped out in general, because just in general, you should have one. But you really should have that for every product line that you produce, right? Your processes that you have for each of the products that you make. Now, as you do that, it becomes more intricate. And then if you're using an MRP or ERP system, some of that has been calculated. But what are you basing that upon? What percentage of available time are you basing that on? Now, people who know what I just said will understand. And for those that don't worry about it. But if you only have 85% of time available, because you have maintenance, you have downtime, you have all these different things, 85%. But are you scheduling it based on 95 or 100%? Now, wise people know better. But those who don't and who aren't looking into this, you're over-scheduling, which is going to put your orders late, is going to put your customers, very irritated with you, okay? So there's so many things that go into mapping out your value stream. First of all, isn't just sitting down and mapping it out. You've got to go and find and do observations and time studies to establish what it is you do. Now, take this notion and apply it not only to product and service in the general sense and the public, but look at customer service for, government offices, for anything, for the medical community, right? That side of the house, all of it. You should have all of that mapped out. And you should know what it takes to provide a service and to create a product. And by overgeneralizing, you're inflating the cost to the customer, and it is hurting the consumer. And when you start to exponentially figure out how many products, now just go to the grocery store, right? Go to the grocery store, go to the parts house, go to here, go to there, go to everywhere, and you see costs going up. If the excuse is, well, I don't have enough people here to serve, and so my cost, but no, that's not a cost thing. That's an organizational culture thing. And you got to get your mind wrapped around that fact first, is you aren't effectively, right, executing in your organization. And because of that, you can't keep team members long enough. Now, I'm not saying that it is foolproof, right? You're going to have some turnover for sure. But if you're drifting, say, more than 6-7%, your retention is less than 93%, then you've got a problem. You've got a problem. And you have to get ahead of that problem before it gets ahead of you. And the way to solve it is not to pass the costs on to, because if you are just doing that to pay for overtime for your overworked employees who are left because they may be landlocked, etc., and other situations, right? Life is what life is. But if you're overburdening your current team, then that is only going to further compound the problem later on. So you have to take a very transparent and honest look at your value stream, and you've got to dig into it, and you've got to make it match reality, not fantasy, and not inflate and pass on these hyperinflationary practices. Now, I will use hotels in general. Why are hotel rooms almost double what they were 6, 7 years ago. That's impossible. It's an impossible scenario to even. It's an impossible fact to say that hotel costs have doubled. They haven't doubled. Okay, they have not doubled. So these added costs, due to turnover and other factors, you're passing those on to your customers. And I would say that anything that is static, a static service or a static product, if you've hyperinflated your costs for no reason, your customers are going to catch on to that and they're going to go elsewhere. And that's just a fact. So anyway, talking today about the value stream, making sure it matches reality, making sure we don't fleece America and other countries for that matter by hyperinflating costs because we're too lazy to get in and do the real work of figuring out what our value stream looks like in reality and costing to the reality, not to the desired outcome and effect. I think the time of highway robbery is over. I think we need to bring it to a close and move on from there. If you can't be innovative and creative enough to overcome some of these issues, that's when you're going to have to, get in, study, get some training in, hire in consultants, whatever you need to do. You're going to have to take efforts. There again, expensive firms aren't going to deflate your costs, right? They're only going to inflate your costs. So another problem. Okay. So anyway, touching a little bit today on value stream. Remember, 3 to 5 times a day, hit that good domino to uplift, motivate, inspire, and encourage folks. And when you do that, not only are we transforming culture, but we're transforming ourselves. And guess what? You might even improve your retention rate. All right. All right, folks. Well, that's all for today. Until next time, take care.